Sky Reapers. The Hive. Chapter 1. The Pulse Beneath the Sand. My name is Dr. Trevor Cassius. For 50 years I chased the dead, dusty scrolls, buried kings, forgotten gods. History was my battlefield, but today the sky declared war. It began in Tunisia. The sun was merciless, the dig site quiet except for wind and whispers of sand. I knelt in a pit no wider than a coffin, brushing away centuries. That's when I found it, gleaming in the dirt like it had been waiting. A shard of gold. Not shaped by hands, not touched by time. It pulsed. Not a trick of the heat. A slow, rhythmic throb like a heartbeat. I stared at it under the blazing sun, and for the first time in decades, I felt afraid. At that same moment, 14-year-old Orion Ashcroft sat bolt upright in bed, screaming. His parents rushed in. He couldn't explain. The word had come into his head like thunder in a jar. Etheron. He didn't know what it meant. Not yet. But the pressure behind his eyes was unbearable, like a message was trying to claw its way out. Thousands of miles away, at the SpaceX Deep Orbit Observatory, Dr. Tori Rose stared at her data feed, unmoving. The stars were missing, not dim, gone. She blinked at her monitor, ran the numbers again. A fleet, hundreds of massive objects breaching the outer solar system. No heat signatures, no broadcasts, just silence and shadow. She tapped her comm. Tori to command, she said, calm but cold. We've got unknowns, moving fast. Back in D.C., General Alex Wolf slammed his fist on the table. The Pentagon war room lit up like a battlefield, red blips swarming in from Neptune's edge. Radars screaming, a tech stammered. Then scream back, Wolf snapped. Arm satellites, bring up deep scan. The screen zoomed. 100 ships. Geometric. Silent. Advancing. The room fell quiet. This isn't a drill, Wolf growled. This is contact. I dropped the relic back into the sand. It kept pulsing. My radio buzzed. Dr. Cassius. Patching through a call. White House. I laughed, dry. The White House doesn't call archaeologists. Today they do. A new voice cut in, sharp, presidential. Dr. Cassius, this is President Lang. We have a situation. Your name came up. Something about ancient warnings, sky reapers. I went cold. That phrase hadn't been spoken in over 1,000 years. It was carved into a Babylonian tablet I once translated. Half myth, half nightmare. A story of golden harvests and sleep without dreams. Mr. President, I said slowly, I need more time. You don't have any, he replied. Helicopters en route. Bring whatever you found. We're assembling a team. They took Orion first, black-suited agents bursting into his house like shadows. His parents shouted, but he went quietly, clutching his skull. They're here, he whispered. They've always been here. Tori fled the observatory, laptop under her arm. Star maps flickered on her screen, entire constellations blotted out. General Wolf loaded a sidearm, his jaw clenched. The last war he fought was on Earth. This one wouldn't be, and I was lifted from the sand in a black chopper, the relic humming in my backpack. We met underground, a bunker beneath the White House. Concrete, steel, panic, 4 strangers, 1 clock. Orion curled in a chair, eyes wide, muttering that word again. Etheron! Etheron! Who's Etheron? Wolf demanded, pacing like a caged beast. I set the relic on the table. It glowed faintly. Not who, I said. What? A name from prehistory. Sky gods, they called them. They came for the gold. Tori slid her laptop across. These aren't gods, they're ships. And they'll be here in under 2 hours. Wolf's fists clenched. Then we hit 'em first. Orion's voice cracked through the silence. Number, you don't understand. His voice wasn't entirely his. They're not here to fight, he said. They're here to collect. The lights flickered, and something phased through the wall. A sphere, metallic, silent, hovering. Silver and smooth, the size of a man's chest. No entry, no noise, just presence. Wolf aimed. Tori shouted, "Don't!" The orb pulsed. Once. My skin tingled. Then again. Orion stood, his eyes glowed faintly. His voice changed. "We are the Etheron," he said, or rather they said through him. "You are the hive. Your gold, the honey, we do not steal it. We planted it, and now we harvest." The orb scanned the room. None of us moved. The bunker was a tomb. Orion's lips parted again. The harvest begins. Chapter 2. Chosen. The bunker trembled. Not from impact, but from something deeper. A frequency you couldn't hear, only feel. The orb hovered, quiet as breath, yet its presence filled the room like thunder. General Alex Wolf didn't hesitate. He raised his pistol. "Stand back," he barked, aiming dead center. But Tori stepped between him and the orb. "Stop," she said sharply. "It's not attacking. It's communicating." Wolf sneered. "I don't care if it's singing lullabies. It's trespassing." Orion stood still, eyes locked on the floating sphere. His pupils had turned silver, glowing faintly. He spoke again, but not in his voice. "We are the Etheron," he said, "keepers of the hive, stewards of the seed." The orb pulsed once more. A deep vibration ran through the floor, like the world had exhaled. Suddenly, every screen in the bunker lit up. Live feeds from cities across Earth. People collapsing, not in agony, just stopping. Mid-step, mid-sentence. They dropped where they stood, sleeping, not dead. All of them, millions. The streets filled with a shimmering fog, silver, soft, luminous. Not gas, not vapor. Something alive. Tori whispered, "What are we seeing?" I stepped forward, heart pounding. "It's the myth, the tax in sleep." Wolf cursed, "Shut the feeds, this is mass sedation." "No," I said, "it's the harvest." Vaults opened. Across the world, banks, bunkers, treasuries. Steel doors 10 inches thick groaned open like petals, and the gold rose. Not lifted by machines, not taken by hands. It floated, streams of it, upward like liquid fire, coins, bars, artifacts. Centuries of greed unspooling into the sky. We watched the live feeds in silence. Tori's laptop buzzed with readings. They're taking gold, silver, platinum, every conductive element. Wolf slammed the console. "They're robbing us." Orion flinched, holding his head. "They've done this before," he murmured. "On other worlds. This is the cycle." The orb drifted closer. Its surface shimmered, reflecting our faces, pale and silent. Then the voice returned, calm, massive, ancient. "You do not need what you hoard. You lock your honey in vaults, behind fear and pride. We use it to fuel the war beyond your knowing." I swallowed hard. What war? The orb pulsed. A low hum filled our bones. The wall shimmered like water. And through it, they came. 3 beings stepped into the bunker without doors or sound. 10 feet tall, skin like starlight, eyes like galaxies. The Aetheron. They wore robes threaded with silver strands of light, flowing, but not cloth. Their presence was not just seen. It was felt, not beautiful, not monstrous, something beyond both. They didn't speak aloud, but we heard them. Orion translated, voice hollow. "We are the Aetheron. We seeded your kind, from clay to king, from fire to fusion. We watched. We waited. You mined for your greed, but we harvest for survival." Tori's jaw clenched. "You mean to say you made us?" One of them turned to her, its face unreadable. "We designed the hive. You are the bees. The gold is your honey, and now the hive has peaked." Wolf stepped forward, defiant. "So, you bred us to be miners?" "To be producers," Orion said, trembling. "In exchange, we protect. You are not alone in the dark. There are worse things than us." He paused, then added, "The Zephron." The name hit the air like broken glass. The lights flickered again. I asked, quietly, "What are the Zephron?" The Aetheron turned toward me. Its voice dropped, through Orion, but deeper. "Devourers. Harvesters of flesh. Breakers of light." A 4th Aetheron stepped forward. It carried a chest, small, silver, glowing. It placed it at our feet. "Your keys," Orion whispered. 5 gifts: energy, wisdom, healing, strength, stars. Tori knelt, but didn't touch it. "Why give us anything?" she asked. "Because the destroyers are coming," the voice replied. "And your gold will not be enough." Wolf looked from the chest to the orb, to the silent cities on the screen. "What happens now?" The Aetheron responded, "We leave. The harvest is complete. We will return when the destroyers rise." He glanced at Orion. "You are the bridge." Then the orb pulsed one final time. The Aetheron stepped back. The wall shimmered again. Then they were gone. No flash, no sound. Just absence. The silver fog outside lifted. On the screens, people began to stir. The world was waking, emptier than before. The orb dimmed and vanished into the ceiling like smoke. Only the chest remained. 5 strangers, 5 keys, 1 question. What now? Chapter 3. The Gold Harvest. The sky was blue again, deceptively calm, but the world had changed. We stood around the silver chest like children staring at a sealed tomb. It pulsed softly, as if breathing. Inside were the gifts the Aetheron left behind, 5 keys, and outside, chaos had already begun. Screens across the bunker blazed with news feeds: London, Tokyo, Johannesburg, São Paulo. Bank vaults were empty. Reserves gone. Fort Knox hollow. Some called it terrorism. Others called it prophecy. But nobody could explain how metal melted upward through solid steel, through ceilings, into the sky, and the silver fog vanished, as if it had never been. People were waking from their unnatural sleep, dazed, confused, angry. Markets crashed, currencies collapsed. Riots bloomed like firestorms. Wolf watched it all in silence. "They robbed us blind," he muttered. "No," I said, stepping toward the chest. "They took what they planted." Tori frowned. "Meaning?" "They seeded us," I replied. "Like bees in a hive. Raised us to produce gold, not for wealth, but for fuel. Their fuel, their war." Orion sat slumped against the wall, pale but conscious. He whispered, "They're fighting something worse. The Zephron." Tori knelt and flipped the latch on the chest. It clicked open with a sound like a breath escaping. Inside, 5 objects. Not artifacts, not tools, not technology as we understood it. They shimmered, shifted, each one alive in its own way. The first was a small orb, clear, glowing faintly blue. It floated into her palm without resistance. She gasped. "It's warm, like it's aware." The orb pulsed in her hand. Her smartwatch shorted out. "Energy," she murmured. "Some kind of infinite generator." Next, I reached in and lifted a tablet. Thin, silver, etched with strange runes. The moment I touched it, they shifted beneath my fingers. "Wisdom," I whispered. It didn't display words. It showed ideas, concepts, layers of understanding unspooling in my mind like ancient memories. Then Orion took the third object, a vial of luminous liquid. It sparkled like starlight and shimmered with every movement. "Healing," he said softly. His fingers trembled, but as he held it, they steadied. The rings under his eyes faded slightly. He looked stronger, more awake. Wolf didn't wait. He grabbed the fourth object, a rod, black and angular, like a spear handle fused with an engine. It hummed in his grip, a low, vibrating tone, like distant thunder. "Strength," he said, eyes gleaming. "It's a weapon," Tori warned. "It's power," Wolf replied. "The kind this planet suddenly doesn't have." The last item was a flat disk, thin as paper, gold in color, spinning slowly in the air. I caught it before it fell. Stars bloomed across its surface, like a galactic map unfolding. A red glyph pulsed faintly at the edge. I felt a chill. "Stars," I said, "and that must be the Zephron." The chest dimmed. Its job was done. We stood in silence, each of us holding a piece of something beyond us. "This changes everything," Tori said, still cradling the energy orb. "Or ends everything," Wolf growled. "If these fall into the wrong hands—" "They already did," I interrupted. "They fell into ours." He didn't laugh. The bunker door hissed open. Soldiers rushed in, alert, weapons drawn. "General Wolf," one barked. "The situation is escalating. Governments are demanding answers. Gold reserves are wiped. Economies are freezing." "They want to know who did it," said another. Wolf glanced at us, then at the rod still pulsing in his hand. "Seal this room," he ordered. "No one gets near this tech." Tori stepped forward. "You can't hide this. These keys weren't given to a government. They were given to us." Wolf stared at her. "They gave them to humans. And last I checked, I'm still one." Orion looked up. His voice was distant. "They're watching." We all turned. "Who?" I asked. He didn't blink. "The Zephron. Not close, but not far." The star map on the disk in my hand pulsed again. The red glyph glowed slightly brighter. Tori's voice was quiet. "They're coming sooner than we think." Later that night, I sat alone in a side chamber of the bunker. The tablet lay in front of me, whispering truths I didn't yet understand. We weren't the first Hive. The Etheron had done this before, on other planets, with other species. Some succeeded, some fell. And the Zephron, they came to devour what was left behind. But here's what struck me most. Every Hive had a choice, not just to survive, but to evolve. We weren't just bees, we were something else. And the honey, the gold, that was just the beginning. Chapter 4. The 5 Keys. The chest was empty now, but the room was not. Each of us held a relic pulsing with potential, power we didn't understand, gifts we didn't ask for. And outside this bunker, the world was burning. News feeds rolled in on silent screens. New York in riot. London blacked out. Sydney's stock market frozen. Entire nations declaring martial law. Gold had disappeared overnight. Entire global economies drained. And no one could explain why. Not yet. "We need to go public," Tori said, pacing. The blue orb hovered just above her palm, crackling softly like a purring star. "People need truth, not silence." Wolf crossed his arms, the black rod still slung across his back like a war flag. "They can't handle the truth. You want riots to turn into civil wars? Mass suicides? Nuclear launches?" "They already don't trust the silence," I said. "They think it was aliens, or the government, or both." Wolf's eyes narrowed. "Let them wonder. Let the chaos burn itself out. When it's done, we rise from the ashes with the tech that keeps the planet together." "You mean you rise," Tori snapped, "with weapons, power, fear." "Control," Wolf corrected. "That's how we survive what's coming." The room tensed. Then Orion spoke. "They didn't give us these to fight each other." He sat in the corner, cradling the healing vial. His skin looked healthier. The darkness in his eyes had faded. But something else had changed too. His voice carried weight, like echoes from a higher place. "They're watching. The Etheron. And others too. These keys are more than tools. They're tests." Tori turned to him. "Tests?" "Every world that came before us," he said slowly, "was given a chance. Most fell to greed, power, war. And the ones that passed," I asked, "they endured. Long enough to face the Zephron." I held up the star map disk. It floated an inch above my palm, spinning slow. The red glyph marking the Zephron pulsed again, closer now. Days, months, years? The disk didn't say. But I felt it. Time was shrinking. "What exactly are the Zephron?" Tori asked. Orion's gaze darkened. "They consume potential, strip worlds clean of consciousness, intelligence, culture. Not for fuel, for sport. Wolf snorted. So they're galactic parasites. No, Orion said, they're predators, apex ones. I looked down at the silver tablet in my hands. The runes on it shifted again, forming a spiral, then a symbol, then something like a memory, a flash. Cities floating above gas giants. Creatures with mirrored skin, a battle cry sung across stars. Then darkness, gone. The last world, I whispered. It failed. Wolf stood. Then we don't. He pointed to the relics. Energy, wisdom, healing, strength, and that map. We use them, build defenses, fortify the planet. If the Zephron come, we hit them harder than anything they've ever seen. And what if that's not the test? I asked. He hesitated. What if we're meant to evolve? I continued. Not dominate, not destroy, but transform. Wolf's jaw clenched, spoken like a man who's never had to hold a front line. No, I said. Spoken like a man who's read every history book that ends in fire. Orion stood. I think the keys respond to intent, he said. They don't just work. They choose. As if answering, the vial in his hand pulsed, and a cut on his cheek vanished before our eyes. Tori's eyes widened. She looked down at her orb. Then we need to understand what each one does before we do anything with them. Wolf looked from one face to the next. 4 strangers. 4 opinions. He sighed. Fine. You want to study? You get 1 week. But I'm locking this place down. No signals in or out. No leaks. Tori raised an eyebrow. And if someone else has one of these keys out there, another bunker, another relic? Wolf paused. The idea hadn't crossed his mind. Then let's hope, I said. They're smarter than us. That night, each of us took our relic to a separate wing of the facility. I spent hours with the tablet. It showed me diagrams, ancient structures, magnetic fields, cosmic alignments. It whispered truths beneath language. I dreamed of machines that moved without fuel, of music that healed broken cells, of cities powered by geometry. I didn't sleep much, but I didn't feel tired either. Tori ran experiments with the orb. She floated it over water, over metal, over circuitry. The readings shattered every law of physics. This is fusion. No, it's something beyond fusion, she said in a private log. This could power the planet for 10,000 years, or collapse it in 10 seconds. Orion meditated with the vial, unlocking visions. He spoke languages no human knew, saw symbols carved on the moon. He woke once, gasping. They're coming from the dark between stars. Not space, but absence, like gravity with teeth. And Wolf? He trained. The rod obeyed him. It became a blade, a shield, a hammer. It reacted to adrenaline, to rage, and maybe to fear. In 7 days, we didn't become heroes, but we became something else. Witnesses, students, guardians of the Hive. The Aetheron had harvested our gold, but they'd left behind something far more dangerous. A choice. Chapter 5. Echoes of the Zephron. It began with the dreams. Orion was the first to feel it. He woke in the middle of the night, gasping, soaked in sweat, eyes wide like he'd seen something behind reality itself. The stars were gone, he whispered. I sat beside him, notebook in hand, watching his hands tremble. In the dream, he said, I was standing above Earth, but the sky wasn't black. It was red, like rusted blood, and I could hear something, not with my ears, inside my bones. He shivered. They're coming. The map disk pulsed that morning. The red glyph, the Zephron marker, was no longer faint. It had brightened, shifted, moved. Tori confirmed it. It jumped, she said, zooming in on the projection. Whatever it is, it's closer, significantly. How much closer? I asked. She hesitated. I don't know. The distances don't work like ours, but the signal strength doubled overnight. Wolf folded his arms. We still don't even know what they are. Their absence, Orion murmured. That's the only way I can describe it. A hunger. Like a star that eats light instead of giving it. We gathered in the core chamber. 5 keys, 5 souls, and now 5 warnings. Wolf laid the rod on the table. We've spent a week trying to understand these tools, but we haven't answered the only question that matters. When the Zephron arrive, do we fight? Or run? I asked. Tori shook her head. There's nowhere to run, not if they move between stars the way the Aetheron do. This isn't a local threat. It's existential. Orion stepped forward, placing the vial of healing gently beside the rod. They don't come for conquest, he said. They come for consumption. I turned to him. Then why leave us a chance? Why the relics, the warnings, the map? He looked at me, eyes distant. Because the Aetheron don't want to protect us out of kindness. They want to protect the Hive. That stuck with me. The Hive. We were bees in a galactic apiary, useful only so long as the Hive thrived. And if the Zephron came to crush that Hive, we'd all burn with it. So I studied the wisdom tablet harder, deeper, and it began to speak back, not with words, but with intuition. Formulas formed in my head, energy patterns I didn't understand, but somehow felt. Concepts of shielding, gravity manipulation, harmonic resonance, a kind of science that danced with philosophy. The Aetheron didn't just want us to survive. They wanted us to evolve. Tori made a breakthrough too. She isolated a particle inside the energy orb, something beyond the known table of elements. It bends time, she said breathlessly, scanning the readings. Not just slows it, it bends it. Like gravity, but intelligent. This could allow us to predict things before they happen, or shield cities, or open corridors between points in space. Wolf grunted. Or build weapons. She snapped back. Or prevent extinction. And then the signal came. Not a message. A vibration. Low, constant, wrong. It ran under the radar, beneath all frequencies, the kind of sound you feel in your molars, in your spine. Our equipment didn't pick it up, but Orion did. He collapsed. We found him in the meditation chamber, convulsing. Eyes rolled back, body seizing. I rushed to his side. Tori scanned for neurological activity, off the charts. He gasped as if drowning. Then his eyes shot open. They've seen us. We froze. The Zephron. They've noticed Earth. The harvest. It wasn't quiet enough. Wolf stepped back, hand on the rod. How long? Orion didn't answer. He didn't have to. The red glyph pulsed again, twice in a row. They've changed course, Tori said, her voice hollow. They're coming here. That night, the dreams spread. I saw them too. A shape, enormous, not a ship, not a creature. A void wrapped in bones and circuitry. It moved through space like a disease. Planets behind it, gone, as if erased. The Zephron didn't invade. They unwrote. At 4:12 a.m., our satellite feed picked up a ripple beyond the asteroid belt. Not visual, not heat. A distortion. Something's bending gravity, Tori said, from outside the solar system. Wolf locked down the bunker. Full blackout. No signals in or out. If they can trace psychic emissions, we're already exposed. I gripped the disk in my hand. The stars on it began to swirl, twisting into new formations. And then, at the center, another glyph appeared. Blue, faint, familiar. I gasped. The Aetheron, I whispered. They're watching too. Orion nodded slowly. They'll come back, but only if we prove worthy. Tori's voice was a whisper. And what does worthy mean? He looked at each of us in turn. Unity, wisdom, discipline. His gaze fell on Wolf last. And restraint. We didn't sleep that night. The relics pulsed in their corners. The walls felt thinner. The stars more distant. And somewhere beyond Neptune's edge, something waited. Not watching. Not hunting. Just coming. Chapter 6. Fractures in Command. We were never meant to be a team. That much was clear by day 10. The bunker had grown colder, not from temperature, tension. The relics hummed in their chambers. The red glyph on the star map now pulsed once every 10 seconds. A countdown, or a heartbeat. Tori snapped first. "I'm not your lab rat, General." She stood across the control room, the energy orb cradled under one arm, glowing fiercely. Wolf loomed opposite her, hands clenched behind his back, jaw like granite. "You're in my facility, Doctor. Rose. That means protocol." "No, it means control." She cut him off. "Every breakthrough I've made, you've buried. Every theory, every model classified, locked down. This isn't security. It's paranoia." Wolf's voice dropped low and sharp. "If this leaks to the outside world, we lose what little time we have. Nations will claw at each other to own this tech, and if that happens before the Zephron arrive..." He didn't finish, but the meaning was clear. I stood between them, trying to hold the line. "We need balance," I said. "If these relics are tests, then we're failing." Wolf glared. "And what do you suggest, Professor? A group hug and shared journal?" "No," I said calmly. "But a little trust wouldn't kill us." He turned away. "Maybe not. But the Zephron will." Orion wasn't in the room. He'd been retreating more and more, spending hours alone in the observation chamber, staring into the blackness beyond the reinforced glass. I found him there, silent, eyes reflecting the void. "You're worried," I said. He didn't blink. "They're closer. I feel them." "The Zephron?" He nodded. "It's like they're listening to the noise we make." "What kind of noise?" "Fear, division, panic. It's like they feed on it." That chilled me more than anything so far. "Do they speak to you?" He hesitated. "Not words, but impressions, hunger, mockery. They know we're not ready." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "We have to be." Later that night, the relics began reacting. The orb surged brighter in Tori's quarters, casting light across the walls like a living sun. The rod in Wolf's chamber sparked, flaring with raw force that scorched a concrete panel. The wisdom tablet whispered patterns into my dreams, blueprints, warnings, spirals of probability. And the vial in Orion's hands glowed with a soft rhythm, like breathing, alive. But the power came with a price. Wolf became more aggressive. He barked at soldiers, demanded total isolation. He accused Tori of hiding breakthroughs. She fired back, threatened to leave, to leak everything. I caught them mid-argument again. Wolf, if you walk out of here, you doom this planet. Tori, if we stay locked in here, you doom it yourself. Orion stepped between them, eyes glowing faintly. Enough, he said quietly. The Atheron gave us 5 gifts, not 1. He looked to me. Trevor holds wisdom. Tori holds energy. I hold healing. You hold strength. He turned back to Wolf. But none of those work without the 5th. Wolf's eyes narrowed. And what's that supposed to mean? I answered. The stars, the map. Orion nodded. Direction, purpose. Without it, we're just tools. With it, we might be a team. The map glyph changed again that night. Not red, not blue, a 3rd color, white. A new glyph, hovering near Earth's position. A spiral shape, ancient, unknown. Tori gasped when she saw it. I've seen that before, she whispered. In a Mayan temple in Guatemala. It's carved into obsidian, above a sealed chamber. Wolf raised an eyebrow. And that chamber has never been opened. It's rumored to house a relic, possibly from the same source as these. A pause. Then Wolf nodded, reluctantly. Pack your gear. We leave at dawn. We prepared in silence. It felt like a shift, not just of location, of direction. Until now, we'd been reacting. This was different. We were choosing to act. But there was still fracture. As the ship prepared to launch, Wolf pulled me aside. If she tries anything, tries to disappear, run off with the tech. I held up a hand. She won't. She's trying to save the world, not rule it. He stared at me. So am I. I nodded slowly. I believe you. But control isn't survival, Alex. Trust might be. He didn't answer, just walked away. The Zephron's glyph pulsed again. Not 10 seconds, every 5, and somewhere in the dark between stars. They listened. Chapter 7. The Signal. The jungle was older than memory. It wrapped around us like a living thing, thick vines, twisted roots, the heavy breath of centuries. The deeper we went, the quieter it got. Even the birds fell silent. Somewhere beneath this canopy, the earth remembered. Tori led the way, guided by an ancient star map etched into obsidian, now mirrored by the Aetheron disk she carried in her palm. It spun gently as we walked, locking into alignment. The glyph from the star map, she said, stepping over roots slick with moss. It matches the symbol carved above the temple door. But there's more. This whole region, it's mapped by resonance, not geography. Meaning? Wolf asked, pushing branches aside. It's not where the temple is, she said. It's what frequency it sits on. Like a signal beacon, an ancient one. We reached the temple before sunset. It rose from the ground like a buried god, half swallowed by jungle, but unmistakably designed. not Mayan, not human. A ziggurat of polished stone and magnetic metals glowing faintly under moonlight that hadn't even arrived. Orion placed his hand on the stones. "It's humming," he whispered, "like it's waiting." The door wasn't locked. It was sealed by vibration, only opened when the Aetheron disk was held near a hollow in the stone. When the symbol aligned, the whole temple shifted. A deep groan like a mountain turning in its sleep. Stone folded inward. A corridor of light revealed itself. Inside we found the vault, and in it, an artifact. Not another relic. Something older. Something recorded. A monolith, 2 meters tall, obsidian black, lined with Aetheron runes. It pulsed. As we approached, it activated. Light spilled from its core, forming a holographic field. Images, scenes, voices. A projection of a planet we'd never seen. It was once green, alive. Cities in the clouds, oceans of light. Then the sky split, and they came. Not ships, not beings. Shapes, dark geometry. Things with no eyes, no mouths, just edges, movement, hunger. The Zephyron. They didn't land, they unraveled. Entire cities turned to dust without touch. People vanished mid-step. Technology turned to ash. The planet fought. They failed. The projection ended. We stood in silence. Wolf clenched his jaw. "That's what's coming," Tori whispered, "and that's what these are meant to stop." She held up her orb. "They gave us the same 5 keys." I looked at the wisdom tablet in my hand, which now pulsed in sync with the monolith. Then at the map, now showing that planet's remains. A dead world. No glyph, no name. Just a silent black spot on the Aetheron network. Orion approached the monolith. "It's not just a warning," he said. "It's a transmitter." He placed his hand on the stone. It glowed white. And for a moment, I heard it too. A voice. Not human. Not Aetheron. Closer. Not from the monolith. From the stars. We scrambled outside. The sky above the jungle flickered. Tori aimed her handheld array toward the horizon. "Something just responded to the vault. It's transmitting now. Full spectrum, wideband resonance." Wolf barked. "Shut it down!" "I can't," she shouted. "It's not our signal anymore." Then we heard it. Low. Deep. Wrong. A frequency that seemed to bend the air. We all collapsed, clutching our heads. Except Orion. He stood tall, his voice distant, detached. "They're coming." "What did we trigger?" I gasped. Orion stared at the sky, unfazed. "Nothing. We just spoke. The vault is part of an ancient warning system. The Aetheron seeded them across different worlds. We just lit one up." Tori's voice cracked. Then the Zephyron heard it. The red glyph on the star map began pulsing rapidly. The white glyph, the Aetherons, flashed once, then vanished, cut off. Wolf looked up from his handheld feed. "They're jamming us, or they're gone." I swallowed hard. "They're leaving us alone." Orion shook his head. "Number, they're testing us." That night, the temple shook. No earthquakes, no tremors. Just a pressure. Like something massive had turned its gaze toward Earth. We didn't sleep. Each relic glowed faintly, alive, alert. watching, or maybe waiting. At sunrise, the monolith went dark. The projection faded. The signal stopped. Tori scanned it. No damage, just offline. Wolf strapped the strength rod to his back. Then we're on our own. I looked at the glyph on the disk, still pulsing red, growing larger, closer. No longer a distant threat, no longer a theory. The Zephyron were on approach, and the countdown had begun. Chapter 8. The Vault Below. Beneath the temple, the real story waited. What we'd seen in the jungle, the projection, the monolith, that was only the door. The vault was buried under it, and what it held wasn't a weapon. It was a memory, one Earth never knew it had. We descended through spiraling corridors that shouldn't have existed. They weren't carved. They were grown. Stone bent in perfect geometry. Walls reacted to our presence, lighting only when we moved, darkening behind us. The entire structure felt alive. Organic tech, Tori whispered, or something even stranger. We reached a chamber at the core. It was circular, silent, and ancient. In its center stood a pedestal, and on it, a relic. Unlike the others, flat, metallic, worn from age. The moment we stepped inside, the 5 Etheron artifacts we carried began to pulse in sync. One beat, one resonance. The chamber lit up, and the past returned. Light filled the room. Not harsh, not warm, just true. The walls came alive, revealing carvings, inscriptions, layered with moving images that flickered like memory shards. It was Earth, not today's Earth, a different version. Continents shaped differently, oceans wider, cities glowing beneath the ground. "Is this the past?" I whispered. "No," Orion said quietly. "It's the first Hive." We watched as a story unfolded. The Etheron didn't just seed humanity. They seeded many. Across time, across cycles, different hives, different tests. The first human civilization was far older than anything our textbooks could admit. Their purpose? To mine, to build, to grow, to prepare Earth as a sanctuary, a fallback world in the Etheron's war with the Zephyron. But that first hive failed. They turned on each other, Tori murmured, watching the images. Factions, weapons, greed. The 5 keys were given, just like to us. But instead of unity, they bred fear. And the Zephyron? They didn't need to attack. They just waited until the hive destroyed itself. Then came the harvest, but not of gold, of life. The sequence ended with a final symbol, the Etheron seal fracturing in half, and a voice echoed from the pedestal, not through speakers, inside us. This vault marks the last warning. Should the hive awaken again, remember, the keys are not salvation. They are thresholds. We stood in silence. Wolf turned to us, voice like gravel. "So this isn't about saving Earth." "No," I said. "It's about proving it deserves to be saved." We examined the relic on the pedestal. A 6th object, smaller than the others. Round, black, silent. No glow, no hum. Dead. Tori scanned it. No energy signature, but structurally it's perfect. like it was made yesterday. Wolf raised an eyebrow. Another key? Orion reached toward it. Number A lock. He touched it. And everything changed. The walls slammed shut. The floor retracted. We fell, not far, into another chamber. This one was cold. Very cold. Not temperature, but presence. It felt like standing next to the memory of death. In the center was a stasis pod. Glass. Cracked. Inside. A figure. Human. Or something like it. Pale skin. Eyes closed. Silver threads wrapped around its body like roots. And something else. Gold. Embedded in its chest. Not jewelry. Not armor. Fused. Tori gasped. This is a hybrid? Etheron? I asked. Number human, modified. Aligned with the relics. Wolf stepped forward, scanning it with his comm. No vitals. Brain function. Flatline. Orion stood beside the pod. He was one of them. From the first hive. He took the power. And paid for it, I murmured. As if answering, the pod hissed. The body twitched. Its eyes opened, black, deep, endless. And it spoke. Not with words. With pressure. With weight. Orion dropped to his knees. Tori clutched her head. I felt it too, a crushing sensation like my thoughts were being rewritten. Wolf raised the rod. The figure blinked, and the relics around us screamed. Then silence. The pod dimmed. The body collapsed, not dead, but disconnected. Tori stepped back. It wasn't awake, it was echoing. A residual intelligence. A warning, Orion whispered. What happens when the hive misuses the keys? We left the vault shaken. Above ground, the glyph had changed again. No longer red, not white. Purple. A new symbol hovered beside it. A spiral within a spiral. Tori tapped the star disk. It's not just the Zephron anymore. Something else? Wolf asked. Orion stood, eyes locked on the sky. No, he said. It's them. They've accelerated. The stars trembled that night. And so did we. Chapter 9. The First Wave. It started with silence, not just quiet. Absence. Birdsong stopped. Wind fell still, even the insects vanished. The earth held its breath. And then the sky cracked. Tori saw it first on the observatory feed, a distortion above the Pacific, something massive bending the atmosphere without entering it. Not a ship, she said, her voice tight. A shadow. Wolf leaned in. Define shadow. A void. It's absorbing radar, light, temperature. It's not cloaked. It's not reflecting reality. Orion whispered, They've arrived. The Zephron didn't come in vessels. They were the vessels, living constructs shaped like obsidian thorns wrapped in gravity fields. They didn't descend. They bled into the sky, towering, gliding, turning clouds to ash with their passage. They moved like ideas, not machines. And the first one entered Earth's lower orbit. Nations responded fast, too fast. Jets scrambled, missiles launched, satellites locked targets. Wolf watched from the mobile command center, jaw tight. Tell them to wait. Don't fire. Not until we understand. The first missile hit. or tried to. It dissolved mid-air, not exploded, not intercepted, unmade. The jet following it vanished with it. "What did they do?" I asked. Tori shook her head. "Reality disruption, like tearing a page from a book instead of burning it." Orion stared at the sky, his eyes unfocused. "They're rewriting physics. We're not fighting ships. We're fighting entropy." Then the screams started. Cities across Asia blinked off the map. Not from bombs. From compression. Skyscrapers folded into themselves. Time stuttered. People disappeared in mid-motion. Tori's hands trembled on her keyboard. "They're not here to conquer. They're here to correct. Like we're a glitch." Wolf turned to us. "This is it. We use the keys, now." Tori clutched the energy orb. "We don't even know how." "Then learn fast." We gathered at the central node. The relics pulsed, bright, synchronized. Each of us stood with one. Me, the wisdom tablet. Tori, the energy orb. Wolf, the strength rod. Orion, the healing vial. And the star map floating between us. It displayed Earth. Then zoomed out. The Zephron weren't alone. 9 more voids blinked into space, one above each continent. Strategic, calculated. They weren't attacking randomly. They were harvesting, like surgeons or scavengers. The relics began to react. The rod in Wolf's hand surged, becoming armor wrapping around his chest and arms like a second skin. The orb in Tori's hands floated above her head, casting protective waves around the platform. My tablet displayed formations, energy frequencies, geometric defenses, gravitational arcs, and Orion's vial split into light. He gasped, fell to his knees, and then rose. His skin shimmered. His voice wasn't his alone. "We are still here," he said. "The Etheron have not abandoned you." The star map flashed. A white glyph blinked at the edge of the solar system. The Etheron were watching, but not interfering. Not yet. "They want to see what we'll do," I said, "if we're still just the Hive, or something more." Wolf turned to us. "We've got 5 hours. After that, there's nothing left to defend." He activated the strength rod. A wave of kinetic energy burst outward, rippling through the air like thunder. "Let's show them what evolution looks like." We split into zones. Tori went to Tokyo, power grids failing, chaos growing. She stabilized fields around infrastructure using the orb, restoring energy through harmonic pulses. The city blinked back to life. She collapsed 10 minutes later, blood trickling from her nose. But she smiled. "Orb's learning, so am I." Wolf flew to Berlin. The strength rod turned into a spear, launching bursts of force that shattered Zephron fragments mid-air. He moved like a weapon forged in war. But the Zephron adapted. One of them mirrored his movements. By the end of the hour, he wasn't fighting an enemy. He was fighting himself. Orion and I returned to the vault, back where the 6th relic had first stirred. The wisdom tablet revealed coordinates beneath the surface. Not defensive, activating. Something was buried deeper. A failsafe, or a warning, or both. We triggered it together. The earth shook, and beneath us, light bloomed. A massive array of Etheron architecture began to rise, circular, symmetrical, resonant, a frequency weapon, or a beacon. Or both, the Zephyron reacted instantly. 4 of them began shifting. Toward us, toward me. The relics pulsed harder. The star map began to distort, edges curling. Too much energy. Too fast. Then I heard them. The Zephyron. No voice, no sound. Just meaning. You were never meant to rise. Return to sleep. Your fire ends here. I held the tablet tight. No, I whispered, not this time. The structure beneath us activated. A pulse of white erupted upward. For one moment, everything paused. The Zephyron above froze, their forms cracked. Edges warped, and one of them broke. Tori cheered over comms. 1 down. Wolf growled back. 8 to go. But Orion's voice came through last. Quiet. Calm. They're not alone. The star map glitched again. New glyphs. Not Zephyron. Not Etheron. Unknown. Something else was coming. And this time, it might not be listening. Chapter 10. The Last Defiance. The sky was torn. 9 Zephyron constructs hovered over Earth, each casting shadows that bent light and time. 1 had been destroyed. 8 remained. But they weren't alone anymore. New glyphs shimmered on the Etheron star map. Not red, not white, not known. Shapes without edges. Motions without forms. Something else had noticed us. Tori's voice cracked over the comms. These new signatures. They're not Zephyron. They're faster, smaller, and curious. Curious? Wolf growled. That's not a military term. No, she replied, but I don't think they're here to kill us. Not yet. At the command center, we regrouped. Me, Tori, Orion, Wolf. Each of us changed. Each of us carrying a relic now fully awake. And above us, a ticking clock of void. Orion stared at the sky. They're watching, he whispered. The Etheron, the Zephyron. And now, the others. Wolf clenched his fists. Then we do what hives do best. Defend. The relics formed a ring around the command node, each humming, connected. Tori placed the orb in the center. I laid down the tablet. Wolf drove the rod into the ground like a flag. Orion set the vial in a shallow dish. It evaporated into light, seeping into the circuitry. The star disk rose, floating above us. The 5 keys were now one system, and together they spoke. A beam launched upward, white, silver, gold, into the clouds. It didn't attack. It declared. A frequency not of war, but of evolution. The Zephyron halted. For the first time, they didn't advance. Then the others responded. Dozens of vessels, organic, glowing, appeared in near orbit. They didn't fire. They listened. Tori's readings spiked. They're mirroring us, syncing to the signal. Orion's face lit up. The Etheron gave us tools, but the others, they might be offering contact. But the Zephyron weren't interested in diplomacy. One construct shifted, doubling in mass, unfurling into a skeletal web that began descending over North America. The beam from our core flickered, the relics strained. We need more, I said. watching the wisdom tablet flash symbols too fast to read. Wolf stepped forward. I can hold the rod alone. You take the rest. Amplify. I hesitated. Are you sure? He grinned, battle-worn, scarred, human. You're the mind. She's the spark, he's the bridge. I'm the damn wall. We moved. Tori channeled the orb into the beacon. Energy surged. Power flooded the network. Orion collapsed, his body now a conduit for something far older. His eyes rolled back, and then he spoke. We are no longer the Hive, he said. We are the flame, and the flame remembers. The others responded. Light burst across the upper atmosphere. Not weapons, but shields. They surrounded cities, filtered Zephron interference, began stitching reality where it frayed. Tori fell to her knees, drained. Her last act, fusing the orb into the ground. It stayed. Alive. Self-sustaining. Wolf faced the descending Zephron construct alone. His rod pulsed, expanding into armor that shimmered like storm clouds. He ran into the field and became myth. I don't remember what I screamed, only that he didn't look back. The strength rod flared, striking upward like a spear of thunder. The construct fractured. The sky opened, and the storm ended. Orion's body collapsed, his breath shallow, his eyes dim. But on his lips, peace. They heard us, he whispered, all of them. I carried the tablet to the final terminal. It activated, a map of stars, now no longer static. New paths, new worlds, new watchers. The Zephron retreated, not defeated, warned, that the Hive had teeth, that the gold they once harvested now burned. In the days that followed, the others made contact. They didn't speak. They sent seeds, pods of knowledge, energy, biology, gifts, a new test, and humanity, no longer blind, no longer asleep, began to build. Tori would go on to lead the Stellar Accord, Earth's first coalition for interspecies diplomacy. Orion's mind never fully returned, but he smiled often, watching the sky. And me? I became the historian of what we were, and what we chose to become. We were not the chosen ones. We were not the first Hive, but we were the first to rise. And in the silence after the fire, we heard something new. Not a warning, not a threat, but a voice. Welcome, Flameborn. You've made it through the dark. End of Book 1. Sky Reapers, the Hive. Thanks for listening.